Have you ever caught someone's eyes and felt like time stood still? That moment when everything around you fades away. You smile, they lean in, and you follow suit without even thinking. In the back of your mind, you might tell yourself it's nothing, but deep down, something is there, right? Now, what if I told you that psychology has 10 clear signs that show when two people secretly like each other, even if neither of them says a word? Have you ever wondered, is it just me, or do they feel it too? Well, you're about to find out. Today we're going to dive deep into the psychology of attraction and uncover those subtle, almost imperceptible signs of mutual interest. Trust me. By the end of this video, you'll start to see people around you in a whole new light. As someone who has spent years studying human behavior, psychology, and relationships, I've seen this time and time again. Two people moving around each other, sensing the attraction, picking up on tiny cues, but never quite saying it out loud. What I've learned is that mutual attraction isn't always about big gestures or grand moments. It's often found in the little things, the subtle glances, the pauses in conversation, the patterns we barely notice. In this video, I'll walk you through 10 psychological signs that show you both like each other. And trust me, by the end of this, you might be surprised at who comes to mind. Pay close attention because some of these signs are easy to miss unless you know exactly what to look for. Let's begin. Sign 1. Magnetic eye contact. There's a powerful feeling when you catch someone's eyes and just hold it for a moment longer than usual. Have you ever had that experience where you look at someone and for a split second it feels like time stands still? They smile, you smile, and you both exchange that wordless connection. The eyes are often referred to as the windows to the soul, and they reveal far more than we think. When two people are attracted to each other, eye contact becomes a silent conversation. It lingers just a second too long, or they quickly look away with a shy smile, almost as if they were caught feeling something they weren't ready to reveal. This isn't just poetic, it's biological. Prolonged eye contact triggers the brain's dopamine system, the same pathway activated when we experience pleasure or reward. That's why when someone holds your gaze a little longer than usual, it's not just by chance, it's instinctive, it's attraction, and it's your body telling you that something significant is happening. If you notice that you're both holding eye contact and then quickly looking away when you catch each other's gaze, it's a sign that there's something deeper happening between the two of you. It's the beginning of a wordless connection. Sign number 2. Mirroring each other's body language. Have you ever caught yourself mirroring someone's movements? Maybe you cross your arms, and a second later they do the same. Or you lean forward in your chair, and they subtly follow suit. It might seem like a coincidence, but this is actually a sign of deep emotional connection. This phenomenon is known as mirroring, and it happens when we unconsciously mimic someone else's posture, gestures, or even speech patterns. It's called the chameleon effect. Psychologists believe it occurs when we feel drawn to someone emotionally, and our brains activate something called mirror neurons. These neurons make us copy their movements, behaviors, and tone of voice, helping to create a bond. Why does this happen? Because mirroring builds a sense of connection. When we unconsciously mimic another person, it tells them, I feel comfortable with you. I feel like we're on the same wavelength. So if you notice the two of you matching each other's body language, whether it's leaning in when they do or crossing your arms just like they did, this isn't just coincidence. It's chemistry at work. Sign number 3. Inside jokes and private language. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a conversation with a woman and suddenly she throws out a phrase, something you said weeks ago, just slightly twisted, almost like a private callback? You might have laughed, shrugged it off. But guess what? That was a signal. When a woman is attracted to you, but afraid you won't feel the same, she doesn't confess it. She creates a shared universe. A world only you and her live in. And she does it with language, inside jokes, teasing nicknames, catchphrases only you two understand. It's not about being funny, it's about building closeness without risk. This kind of behavior is subtle. Most men miss it because they're trained to look for bold signals, flirting, direct compliments, physical contact. But hidden attraction doesn't work that way. It hides in plain sight. She might say something like, "Careful, don't bring out your detective mode again after you once made a joke about how observant you are." It's not about the joke, it's about testing familiarity. From a Stoic point of view, this is where you exercise your discipline in perception. You don't jump to conclusions. You don't assume every woman wants you. But you also don't ignore recurring signs, especially ones that form a pattern of personalized language. Stoics talk about living in accordance with nature and human nature. It builds connection through symbols, repetition, and shared meaning. Language is one of our most intimate tools. When she starts creating a private code with you, that's her way of saying, "You matter, you're different, I remember you." And that phrase, "I remember you," is one of the strongest forms of affection. Let me give you a real example. A client of mine, Mark, once told me about a woman he worked with. They had lunch together one day and joked about how she always spilled her drinks. He called her the chaos sipper. Months later, during a meeting, she accidentally knocked over her water and whispered to him, "Chaos strikes again." Same tone, same phrase, eye contact, smirk. That wasn't about the water. That was, "I'm thinking about you." Still. And here's the key, she didn't say, "I like you." She didn't even flirt openly. She just reopened a door they once touched, hoping he'd step through. Now imagine if Mark didn't notice it. If he just smiled and moved on. That connection, gone. That moment missed. But instead he leaned in, mirrored the joke, and created a follow-up reference that only they would get. She lit up. Because here's the secret. Women don't just want to be pursued, they want to be understood. And private language makes her feel seen in a way that's hard to fake. So if you've experienced this, if a woman ever used a phrase, a nickname, or a private joke only you two would get, go to the comments right now and type, "It became our thing." Say it. Own it. Because that wasn't just a laugh. That was intimacy wearing a mask. And if you didn't catch it, then you will now. Moving forward, remember this. A woman who's into you but scared will often say more with a smirk and a callback than she ever will with a full-on confession. Your job isn't to press. It's to be present. As Epictetus said, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. That includes listening to the things left unsaid, the jokes, the timing, the quiet references. Now buckle up, because next we're leaving language behind and entering vulnerability. When she starts asking about your love life, your past, your emotional weight, it's no longer playful, it's real. Let's get to it. Sign number 4, subtle touches. Okay, let's talk about something almost every man overlooks, touch, but not the obvious kind. I'm not talking about hand-holding, hugs, or anything clear-cut. I'm talking about subtle, unintentional, almost invisible touches. Touches that last a little longer than necessary. Touches that look like accidents, but happen more than once. Let me break it down. When a woman is deeply attracted to you but afraid of being too forward, she'll find a way to feel you without committing to it. That could be a soft touch on the forearm when she's laughing. It could be brushing lint off your jacket even if there's nothing there, or adjusting your bracelet, your sleeve, your hoodie string. And here's the key. It's not about what she's touching. It's about what she's allowing herself to feel, even for a second. From a psychological angle, subtle touch is a form of seeking connection without risking rejection. It's like her body is acting on instinct before her brain catches up. She wants to be near you, wants to know how you feel, but she's still afraid of what it means to admit it. Stoicism teaches us to be grounded, unmoved by the chaos around us, but it doesn't mean we're unaware. A Stoic man is observant. He notices patterns, body language, the small things that others brush off. He sees the flicker of her hand when she could have passed something without contact but didn't. He doesn't jump to conclusions. He doesn't gloat. He notices, and he stays still. There's a reason Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe how things are done, not just what is done." That applies to her actions too. A woman might not touch you intentionally at first, but once she starts finding excuses to close the space to let her fingers drift near your arm or shoulder, that's energy you can't ignore. Let me give you a real-world example. There's a guy in our community, let's call him David. David met a woman at a bookstore. They had a great conversation, and at the end she handed him his receipt, but instead of placing it in his hand, she placed it between his fingers. Skin brushed, no words, just eye contact, a small smile. Then she said, "You're not one of those people who fold receipts into squares, are you?" He smiled. She walked away. It happened again the next time they met. Different touch, different reason, same energy. David knew the signs. He didn't overplay it. He didn't ask, "Do you like me?" He stayed centered, calm. And over time her touches grew bolder because she felt safe. That's what this is about. Women touch when they feel safe, drawn in, curious, and scared to say so. So if you've had this experience, if she brushed your hand, fixed your collar, or rested her fingers near yours for no reason at all, drop this in the comments. I felt it. No explanation needed. Just that. Own it. And if this is starting to open your eyes to how attraction really works, if you're starting to notice things you used to miss, you need to subscribe right now. Seriously. Because here we decode subtle behavior through the lens of Stoic masculinity. We don't play games, we study human nature. And we train to stay calm while the world reacts emotionally. And if you're ready to connect with other men who get this, men who aren't chasing chaos but building strength quietly, join the Stoic community. It's more than a subscriber list. It's a real community. Private content, accountability, quiet power. The link's in the description. Next we're going deeper, because subtle touches are physical, but what comes next is emotional. She starts asking questions about you, your past, your values, your beliefs, not because she's nosy, but because she's invested. You ready for that? Let's keep going. Sign number 5, they remember the little things. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had someone bring up a tiny detail you mentioned weeks ago, something you barely remember saying? Maybe you told them your favorite ice cream flavor is pistachio. Maybe you said you hate rainy Mondays. Maybe you casually mentioned your dad taught you how to fix a sink when you were 12. And one day they bring it up, unprompted, effortlessly. They remembered. That moment hits differently, doesn't it? When someone remembers the little things, especially the things no one else bothers to hold on to, it's not just a good memory. It's not politeness. It's interest. It's care. It's presence. When attraction is mutual but unspoken, these small acts become the language of connection. We're taught to look for big gestures, grand confessions, flirtatious texts, long phone calls, but most of the time real connection shows up in whispers. And this right here is one of those whispers. The truth is, the brain doesn't randomly store information. It stores what it finds meaningful. So, if someone remembers a story you told at 11 p.m. about your old dog, or that you once said you sleep better with white noise, that's not an accident. That's emotional priority. In psychology, this is sometimes referred to as selective attention, but from a Stoic lens, it's something deeper. Stoics train themselves to see what matters, to tune out the noise and recognize patterns in people, especially in behavior, because human behavior is rarely random. It's layered, it's patterned, it speaks. So when someone recalls the way you take your coffee without asking again, or references a song you mentioned once when you were tired and open, that's emotional accuracy in motion. You are remembered, and that means something. Let me give you an example from real life. One of my coaching clients, Ryan, shared a story with me that stuck. He was seeing someone casually, nothing serious according to him. During one conversation, he briefly mentioned that when he was a kid, he used to save bottle caps with his grandfather. He forgot he even said it. A month later, on a random weekend, she handed him a small mason jar. Inside a handful of old bottle caps, she said, "Saw these at a vintage market. Thought you might like them." That wasn't a gift. That was a memory returned with intention. Ryan told me he didn't know what to say. And that's the thing, when someone remembers your small details, you don't always have to say something. You just feel it. And in many cases, especially with attraction that hasn't been spoken aloud yet, this is the moment that shifts everything. Now here's where Stoicism comes in. A Stoic man doesn't chase meaning in every interaction. He observes. He holds steady. But when he sees clear evidence of intentional memory, when someone has remembered his values, his quirks, his emotions, he acknowledges it internally with quiet respect. He doesn't get caught up in fantasy, but he also doesn't ignore emotional data. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had someone remember something small about you that even you forgot you shared? That moment when they say, "Didn't you mention this once?" and you're left wondering how they even remembered. If yes, type this. In the comments, they remembered. It's a small sentence, but it means everything. Because when the little things are remembered, it tells you one powerful truth. You weren't just heard, you were felt. Now let's shift gears. Because if this is happening, if someone is holding on to details about you, it's only a matter of time before those details become part of something bigger, something personal, something undeniable. So let's keep going, because next we're going to talk about the kind of eye contact that doesn't just connect you, it freezes time. Sign number 6, awkwardness, nervous energy. All right, let's be real for a moment. When you think of attraction, you probably imagine confidence, flirting, that effortless flow of conversation. But what if I told you one of the most honest signs someone likes you is awkwardness? Yeah, nervous, jittery, can't find the right words, energy. And here's the thing, that awkwardness doesn't mean they're not confident. It means they're invested. Because when emotions kick in, especially ones we're not ready to admit, our body has a funny way of reacting, fidgeting, laughing at the wrong time, saying something weird, and then trying to backpedal. You've seen it, you've felt it. So what's really happening? At its core, nervous energy is tension between desire and fear, desire to connect, fear of rejection. And when that tension shows up in someone's body, voice, or rhythm, it's not just random, it's revealing. Let's get stoic for a second, Seneca said. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. That applies here perfectly. People who feel deeply don't always show it clearly. In fact, the more they feel, the harder it becomes to act cool, because they're fighting a storm inside. Should I speak or stay quiet? Should I smile longer or look away? What if they notice I'm nervous? But that very storm, that awkward hesitation, is the body saying, this person matters. I once coached a client, Sarah, who told me every time she saw this one guy at her gym, her whole routine broke down. She'd trip over words, forget her reps, even drop her water bottle once, just trying to seem normal. And guess what? He thought she wasn't interested, thought she was distracted. What he didn't realize was that she was overthinking every move because he mattered. That's the trap, isn't it? We assume that attraction always looks like eye contact, smooth talking, and big smiles. But sometimes it looks like a weird pause in the middle of a sentence, or pacing, or over-laughing, or adjusting the same sleeve over and over. You don't fake those things. They come from emotional friction. And for the Stoic mind, this is gold. Because instead of reacting to awkwardness by pulling away or getting frustrated, you observe it with calm awareness. You say, "She's fidgeting. Her voice is a little shaky. She's normally sharp, but she's stumbling over words." Not to judge, not to analyze, but to notice. This is your advantage as a high-value man. You see beyond performance. You catch what others miss. Here's a moment that stuck with me. I was at a dinner party years ago, casual, about 12 people. One woman barely spoke all night, just small smiles, short answers, very reserved. But toward the end, someone mentioned hiking, and I casually said I had twisted my ankle on a trail 2 weeks ago. She suddenly lit up. She said, "Wait, the ridge trail with the loose gravel near the cliffs." I nodded. She smiled. "I always thought that part was brutal." "I'm glad you're okay." The room kept moving, but I saw it. Her tone changed. Her body leaned in. She had been listening the entire night, nervous, quiet, unsure how to join in. That was the moment she broke through. Nervousness in this context isn't weakness. It's a doorway. Now I want you to think back. Have you ever seen someone act oddly around you, more awkward than usual, more jumpy, more talkative, or more silent than they are with anyone else? If yes, type this in the comments. I noticed the shift, because that shift is real. Don't ignore the nervousness. Don't brush off the tension. Sometimes those are the most honest parts of attraction. And guess what? Once that awkward tension is met with calm acceptance, it often turns into something deeper: trust, ease, even boldness. So, stay steady, because next up we're going from nervous to focused, when someone doesn't just fidget but actually zeroes in on you with their eyes. Let's talk about the gaze that gives it all away. Sign number 7, they find reasons to be around you. Let's keep it simple. If someone keeps showing up where you are even when they don't have to, that's not luck. It's not coincidence. It's intent with camouflage. See when attraction builds but hasn't been admitted yet, especially when there's fear, uncertainty, or emotional risk involved. The most natural thing people do is orbit. They don't move directly toward you, but they also can't stay away. So they invent reasons. They just happen to grab coffee near your building. They ask for help with something they could easily Google. They show up early, stay late, sit nearby. They hover not to pressure you, but to feel close without being obvious. Now, some people mistake this for friendliness. Others don't notice it at all. But once you learn to see it, you'll recognize this pattern over and over. Why? Because proximity is power. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote often about choosing your environment carefully, because what surrounds you shapes you. That applies emotionally too. When someone is drawn to you, their instinct isn't always to confess. It's to position. They want to see if you'll respond. They want to feel your energy. They want to lower their own fear of rejection by getting closer little by little. Let me give you a real example. A guy I know, Jason, worked in a shared office space. Every few days, a woman from another department would stop by. At first it was work-related, then it wasn't. She'd bring snacks to share with the floor. She'd ask if anyone knew how to fix the coffee machine, but always asked him. One day she said, "I feel more focused when I work near your area." Now, did she need to be their number? But that wasn't the point. Her mind was looking for excuses. Her emotions had already made the decision. The Stoic view: don't get cocky, don't chase, but do observe. Because when someone keeps finding you over and over, when there are dozens of other places they could be, that's a choice. It's interest, dressed up as coincidence. And sometimes it's not even about physical space. They might reply to your story within seconds, react to things they never reacted to before, comment on your posts not just once but consistently. Digital presence counts too. The rule is simple: people make time for what they care about, and they make space even subtly for who they're drawn to. Let's zoom out. There's a reason this matters so much. In Stoicism, attraction is not about chasing approval. It's about remaining centered while recognizing patterns around you. It's the balance between clarity and calm. If you start obsessing over whether someone likes you, you lose your power. But if you train your eye to spot consistent signals like proximity, presence, attention, you gain understanding without emotional dependence. Now let's flip it. Think about someone you were drawn to. How many times did you look for reasons to see them? Even the most casual excuses just to be there, just to cross paths, just to exist in the same space. It wasn't about logic, it was emotional gravity. That's exactly what's playing out when someone orbits you. And the way you respond defines everything. Here's your call to action. If you've ever experienced this, if someone kept showing up without reason, hovering just close enough to feel present, type this in the comments. They stayed close, because that's what it is. Not a declaration, not a confession, just presence. Silent, intentional presence. And when that presence becomes consistent, it's no longer random, it's interest, waiting for a signal back. So the next time you notice someone lingering longer, laughing louder when you speak, or simply appearing more than makes sense, don't overthink. Just notice and stay grounded. Because up next we're going deeper into that look, that focused, unbroken gaze that says what words can't. Sign number 8. Deep, uninterrupted conversations. You ever talk to someone and realize an hour passed, and neither of you noticed? No phones, no distractions, just presence, just flow. That's not common, and it's definitely not accidental. That kind of conversation, unrushed, unfiltered, and emotionally tuned in, is one of the clearest signals of mutual interest. Because in a world addicted to distraction, giving someone your full attention is the modern version of intimacy. Think about it. How often do you scroll while talking to someone? How often do people check their watch, glance at the television behind you, or answer with, while clearly not listening? Now compare that to a conversation where every word lands, where you speak and they lean in, where silence isn't awkward, it's comfortable. That kind of connection doesn't just happen, it's created, and it's almost always born from one thing: genuine attraction. You see, when someone's attracted to you truly, they don't just want to be near you, they want to know you, they want to peel back the surface. Ask the second question, hear how you think, and when you feel the same way, you respond the same. You drop the mask, you stop scripting yourself, you speak in real time, flawed, honest, present. That's the magic. One of my clients, Derek, once told me something that stuck with me. He said, "I didn't know I liked her until we talked for 2 hours about nothing, and I didn't want it to end." That's when he realized it wasn't about what they talked about. It was the energy behind it. There was no agenda, no performance, just two people who felt safe being curious. And here's something most people don't notice. In these conversations, time bends. You don't feel rushed. You're not planning what to say next. You're just there. And from a Stoic perspective, that's a rare thing. Because Stoics teach us to live in the present moment, not clinging to the past, not fearing the future. And a deep, uninterrupted conversation is one of the purest expressions of that. You're not thinking about how you look. You're not trying to impress. You're engaged, not performative. You're receptive, not reactive. It's as close to real presence as two people can get. Now here's the twist. People often mistake chemistry for excitement. But true chemistry is calm. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's that unspoken ease when the world fades and nothing exists but the person in front of you. That's the feeling you need to watch for, not just the butterflies, but the stillness, because that stillness means trust. And where there's trust, there's attraction, deep emotional attraction. Now I want you to pause and think, has anyone ever made you forget to check your phone? Have you ever spoken with someone and walked away feeling more understood than you expected? If that's you, if you've felt that rare moment of alignment, want you to own it. Type this in the comments. I felt the silence, short, powerful, true. And if someone's giving you that kind of time, holding space for your thoughts, listening like it matters, speaking without rushing, you're not in a casual exchange, you're in a bonding moment. So don't ignore it. Don't overanalyze it either. Just let it be what it is, a signal that something real might be unfolding. Because when deep conversations show up, they don't just connect minds, they expose hearts. And next we'll talk about one of the most instinctive signs of emotional pull: eye contact, that lingers longer than logic should allow. Let's get into it. Sign number 9. Jealous reactions, even subtle ones. Let's not sugarcoat it. Jealousy, whether loud or quiet, is one of the clearest signs of interest. Not the toxic, possessive kind. We're not talking about outbursts or drama. I mean the subtle flicker, the quick glance, the slightly colder tone when someone else grabs your attention. That is real. When someone is emotionally invested in you, even if they're hiding it, jealousy creeps in the moment they feel replaced. And here's the key: most people won't admit it, especially if they're trying to keep their feelings under control. But you'll see it if you're watching. Maybe you mention another woman in a story, and suddenly her energy dips. Maybe she asks casually, "Is she close with you?" but her body tenses up just slightly. Maybe she interrupts when someone else is making you laugh a little too much. It's not about ownership, it's about emotional proximity. If she cares, she notices. And when she notices competition, her internal alarms go off. But here's where stoicism comes in. A stoic man doesn't react with arrogance. He doesn't use jealousy to boost his ego. He notices, he acknowledges, but he stays grounded. Because emotional discipline means you don't exploit someone's vulnerability, you respect it. And jealousy, especially the subtle kind, is pure vulnerability. It's the quiet confession: I don't want to lose your attention. I care more than I'm saying. You matter more than I'm letting on. Let me give you an example. A guy I worked with, Marcus, told me about a woman in his friend group. They had easy banter, playful energy, always fun, but nothing ever official. Then one weekend, another woman joined their group hangout, and she clearly vibed with Marcus, laughed a little louder, sat a little closer. The first woman didn't say anything, but her energy changed. She didn't laugh as much. She got more sarcastic. Later, she pulled Marcus aside and said, "You seemed really into that new girl." She played it off like a joke. But it wasn't. That was the moment Marcus realized she feels something. And that's exactly how subtle jealousy works. It's not always confrontation. Sometimes it's deflection. Sometimes it's teasing. Sometimes it's silence. But it always comes from the same place: emotional risk. Because when feelings are involved, even a small shift in your attention can trigger deep reactions. So what should you do? Observe. Calmly, silently. Don't tease them for it. Don't fish for more. Instead, recognize it as a signal they're emotionally invested, and they're scared you'll drift. Now let's flip it. Have you ever felt jealous energy from someone? Not in a toxic way, but in that subtle shift when you connected with someone else. Did their energy cool off a little? Did they suddenly go quiet? Did they try to get your attention back? That's not coincidence. It's emotional exposure. And if you've experienced it, if you've felt that energy shift, I want you to leave a mark. Type this in the comments, I saw it change. Because noticing that change means you're paying attention to the emotional undercurrents, the things people don't say but always show. And that's a rare skill. In Stoic terms, this is emotional awareness without judgment. It's the art of seeing what's real beneath the surface, without letting it shake your peace. You don't chase validation, you don't manipulate emotion. You witness it, acknowledge it, and remain centered. Because in that stillness, you gain clarity. Now we've almost reached the final signal, and trust me, you'll want to see it through, because next we're diving into something powerful, the sign that doesn't need words, jealousy, or deep talks, just presence. The final signal, they show up when it counts. Sign number 10, the energy shift. Let's end this strong. Because out of all the signs we've talked about, the glances, the subtle touches, the nervous laughter, this one, it's the hardest to describe, but the most powerful to feel, the shift. That moment when the energy between you and someone else changes, not with words, not with action, but with presence. You feel it before you understand it. Something's different. She's more quiet, but more focused. She's not saying more, but her energy is closer. When you speak, her attention sharpens, not because she's being polite, but because she's locked in. And that's the thing about attraction, real attraction. It doesn't always show up with a spark. Sometimes it arrives as a shift in the atmosphere, a slow turning, a stillness. Like when you're used to just bantering with someone, keeping it light, but suddenly a moment lands differently. You make eye contact, and neither of you looks away. Or you say something real, something honest, and they don't laugh it off. They receive it. That's the shift. It's not about a big confession. It's not about obvious moves. It's about emotional gravity. The way two people start to orbit each other without saying they're doing it. And this is where emotional intelligence kicks in. This is where the Stoic mindset matters most. Because if you're too focused on surface-level signs, how often she texts, how long she holds eye contact, you might miss the deeper layer. You might miss the change in her energy. Seneca said, "If you know not to which port you sail, no wind is favorable." That applies here too. If you're not attuned to emotional direction, you'll miss the shift completely. You'll mistake quiet for disinterest. You'll see space as distance instead of tension. You'll miss the moment when friendship starts to become something more, quietly, slowly, but unmistakably. Let me show you what this looked like for someone I know. Tyler had been close friends with a woman in his photography class. Easy vibe. Lots of joking, nothing serious. But over time, things changed. Not dramatically. But one day she asked him for help editing a project. They stayed late in the lab, no flirting, just work. Until a pause. She leaned over to watch a clip. Their shoulders touched. Neither of them moved. He looked up. She didn't back away. No words were said. No signals were thrown. But Tyler told me later, that moment was different. I don't know how to explain it. The energy shifted, and once it shifted, it never shifted back. That's how it works. The energy between people recalibrates, and if you're present enough, centered enough, you'll feel it. You'll know you've entered a new space, a deeper one. Now here's what's critical. Don't force it. Don't label it too soon. And definitely don't doubt it. Let it unfold. This is where Stoicism keeps you grounded. It tells you to stay calm, to observe, to trust what's real, not what's imagined. Because when the energy shifts, what matters most is your response, not chasing, not overthinking, just being there, fully, attentively. You've built the connection, you've seen the signs, you've stayed centered. Now, let it evolve. And I want to hear from you right now. Have you ever felt that kind of moment, the shift, the silence, the unspoken depth that changed everything? If yes, leave this in the comments. I felt it shift. Those 4 words mean everything. They mean you were tuned in. They mean you didn't miss it. If you made it this far, you're not just watching, you're growing. You're someone who values awareness, someone who refuses to live on autopilot when it comes to attraction, relationships, or personal power. And if that's you, this channel was built for you. So here's what to do next. Subscribe right now. That's your first step to staying sharp, staying grounded, and continuing to learn the psychology and Stoic mindset behind real connection. And if you're ready to take it further, join the Stoic community. That's where the real conversations happen. Exclusive content, tools, a brotherhood of men walking the same path. You'll find focus, strength, and clarity together. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video tomorrow.